Some ESAT questions are really easy. You should not spend more than 30 seconds on them. If it's been more than 2 minutes and you're still struggling, move on to the next question. Hi everyone, my name is Elvi. I'm an Oxford Biochemistry graduate and Oxbridge admissions coach. Today, I'm going to explain how the ESAT exam works, which Bioscience courses at Oxford, Cambridge and Imperial require it, and I'm going to work through some examples of easy, intermediate and hard questions on the ESAT chemistry module test. So let's take a look at what the ESAT test format actually is like. If you want, you can take a pause of the video here and just look at this screenshot, which comes from the ESAT website. But in summary, it is a modular multiple choice test format that is done online. For bioscience subjects, you will have to do maths, chemistry, and biology modules. You get a total of 40 minutes to do 27 questions, which works out to about roughly 90 seconds per question. Importantly, all of the questions are worth 1 mark. No question is more important than the other. So what does that mean for you? You cannot spend the same amount of time on all questions. Some will be easy, some will be reasonably hard, and some will be very hard. This is what I will go into later on in the video. Which courses at Oxbridge and Imperial within Biosciences actually require the ESAT? At Oxford, it's just biomedical sciences. At Cambridge, as you would probably expect, it's natural sciences, which covers a lot of applicants. Ironically, it's at Imperial where they require the ESAT the most. This is for biological sciences, biochemistry, as well as their microbiology and biotechnology courses. However, do note that at Oxford, chemistry, biology, and biochemistry do not require the ESAT. Something to bear in mind when you're considering which course to choose at Oxford. Some important notes on deadlines and further information about the exam. For Oxford and Cambridge, of course, the deadline is ahead of Imperial. Your last day to register is practically the end of September, and the exam window is done around the 12th to the 16th. For Imperial, you have a lot more time. Your last day to register is the 21st of December, and your exam window is between the 4th and the 8th of January. Of course, if you're applying to both Oxbridge and Imperial, you will be on the first timeline. However, this is where you have to decide if you are going to include Oxford or Cambridge as part of your application process, because if not, it gives you a lot more time to work with. It's done online. You can't have calculators or a periodic table in the exam. And importantly, you can't retake the test within the same academic cycle. So if you want to try and improve your score for Imperial, if you've maybe received that rejection letter from Oxford or Cambridge, you're not going to be able to do that. Now that we understand what the ESAT test is and which courses require it, let's actually take a look at some of the specific questions using the chemistry module as an example. Remember how earlier in the video I said that you can't treat all questions equally? Well, that's because some of the questions on the ESAT exam are actually very easy. They're actually kind of aimed at that sort of borderline GCSE to A-level knowledge ability. So it very much is a exam of time management and quick problem solving rather than detailed explanations or recollection of advanced knowledge. So let's take a look at one of these easy questions. Okay, so I've got my timer up here. I'm allocating approximately 30 seconds for this question. Let's see if we're able to do it. Okay, 3, 2, 1, let's go. Okay, so oxygen, we should know, has a oxidation state of -2. So that's a total of -8. Okay, therefore, between these three Fe ions, they must make +8. But they can be either Fe2 plus or Fe3 plus. So we have 2, 2, 3, 2, 3, 3. Okay, that works. Which is the fraction that is in the 2 plus state? 1/3. Okay, 1/3. Perfect. 30 seconds. So as you can see, this really isn't a very challenging question. Of course, it does require you to know that oxygen is always a 2 minus in terms of its oxidation state, with the exception of when it's in a peroxide. Okay, so questions like that you want to be able to whiz through because there are much harder questions that do come up. Let's take a look at another easy question. Okay, so again, we'll put on the timer. 3, 2, 1, go. Okay, so water measured at room temperature and pressure, 6 grams of it if it all evaporated. Okay, perfect. So it's all in a gas. So they've given us the molar volume of the gas. Okay, 6 grams. What do we do with that information? Well, 6 grams over the molar mass of water, which is H2O. H2O is 16 plus 2, which is 18. So that's 1/3. 1/3 times 24 gives you 8 dm3. 8 dm3 is 8,000. Okay, so what's the challenges here? Quick mental maths. And very simply being comfortable to quickly convert between grams, moles, and MR. Okay, at this, if you're a student applying for Oxford and Cambridge, that should be really a piece of cake. So there's not that much to it with some of these questions. It's just the speed of the calculation. The knowledge is not that complicated. Now, let's take a look at a question that I would categorize as medium difficulty. Why is this a medium difficulty question? Because it's not just simple mental maths. Okay, so for these types of medium questions, I would allocate about 1 minute, 1 minute 10. Okay, let's attempt the question. So, listed are the electron configurations for the atoms of different elements. Which one represents the most reactive non-metal? Okay, so because this one's electronic configuration ends in 1, we can eliminate that immediately. Okay, so now we are going to have to recognize that 2,4 is carbon. Carbon isn't known for being particularly reactive, so we can also eliminate that. Now, effectively, we have 2 pairs. We can compare within a row, or we can compare between one row and the row beneath it. Okay, so reactivity for non-metals means ability to pull electrons in. Okay, so what we're looking for is low shielding and highest nuclear charge. Okay, so highest nuclear charge is going to be more to the right of the periodic table. So that's going to be something with a 7. Okay, and least shielding means least number of electrons. So it has to be this one. Okay, we did that within a minute 10. And of course, I was explaining this. So it would in reality be a little bit quicker. But as you can see, it's not just simple mental maths. We have to also work by a process of elimination sometimes. Finally, we're going to take a look at what I would consider to be a hard question. This is a hard question because we've got lots of information split over multiple lines, and it's going to require multiple steps to work out the answer. Let's go. I've dedicated 2 minutes for this question. Some really basic things that we need to be aware of. The nitrate ion is 1 minus, and the copper nitrate is going to be copper NO3 2. Why are there 2 of these nitrates? Because this is a 2 plus ion. We need to balance it out. Now, copper is reacting with nitric acid to produce this copper nitrate, water, and compound X. Okay, we don't know what X is, but it doesn't contain copper or hydrogen. So we've got copper here. We're now told that there's 3 moles of copper with the nitric acid to produce 4 moles of water. Okay, so now we can start balancing things. We can definitely balance for hydrogen because we know that X doesn't contain copper or hydrogen. So we've got 8 here, so therefore we need 8 here. We are now balanced for hydrogen. Okay, now let's take a look at the oxygens. We've got 4 oxygens here, and we've got 3 times 2 equals 6, but we need to balance for the coppers as well. So we're going to put a 3 in front of that. These are now balanced. Okay, so 6 times 3 gives us 18 oxygens. 18 plus 4 gives us 22. And how much do we have on this side? We have 24 oxygens. So we are short 2 oxygens. How many nitrogens are we short? We've got 8 nitrogen here and 6 nitrogen here. So we are short N2O2. Now let's look at our solutions. No, 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 no. This could work. So we would have 2NO. That is the identity of compound X. So we were able to do that in just under 2 minutes. But as you can see, it's not that a straightforward question. You have to balance things out and think about it. It's a multi-step problem. You will, in the exam, be given a whiteboard, either digital or a paper and pen format, in order to do these workings out. Hopefully, that was a useful guide on what the ESAT exam is like, who needs to take it for what courses, and how you should actually approach the types of questions that come up. Remember, the ESAT is not about testing the most challenging questions from your A level or IB syllabus. Most of it is kind of at that borderline GCSE A level ability. What you do need to remember is that you need to work through the questions quickly and be good at identifying key terms, key ideas, key pieces of information. It's really an exercise in time management. Whether you need personalized one-to-one support for your ESAT exam, or more generally, a strategic consultation regarding whether to choose Oxford or Cambridge, which subject to choose, developing your personal statement, you can find me at www.elvisoxfordcoach.com.